at this stage. Hiren Ved is joining us right now. He's Chief Executive Officer, Director and Chief Investment Officer at Alchemy Capital Management. He's a market master of the day. Hiren, great to have you with us here. Thank you very much. Prashant this side. We seem to be firmly in the grip of a downtrend, Hiren. How much more before things start to look reasonable, things settle down? Your sense?
Yeah, I mean, Prashant, it's always difficult to pinpoint what levels we will go to. But it certainly looks like that we are in a short to medium term downtrend. And I think that, probably we will continue to see some earnings and margin pressure going into Q1. But my sense is that most of that should get priced in because, pretty much now with these results coming in, I think unless inflation goes completely out of hand, most of the stuff should get priced in. And I think we are also in a situation where because of the headlines and the headwinds that we are seeing, I think the sentiment is really, really bearish. So I mean, my personal view is that I don't think we have a very significant downside from these levels.
Okay, by the way, just look at IT stocks and that really has been the go-to pocket. Mindtree is down 5% again. Since its numbers, Mindtree is down 40%. Of course, it's not alone. L&T Tech Services, all the mid-cap IT stocks where, 2021 was really the year of a massive valuation reset. All these stocks are now almost back to pavilion. Hiren, good morning. How are you approaching this space now? Do you think more froth needs to be taken out or, the structural story is still intact and hence perhaps this is an entry opportunity? How would you approach it?
I think the structural story is pretty much intact in IT. I don't think that we are going to see any significant slowdown. Yes, valuations were definitely on the higher side, which they are correcting now. But if you were to look at whether these businesses can deliver 15 to 20% compounded earnings growth over the next couple of years, I think that that is pretty much possible. And in an environment here where, inflation is a challenge, I think that, this sector, at least from a demand perspective and margin perspective, should be reasonably okay. Most of these companies have good levers to manage margins. And I think the demand environment, at least from what we continue to see from these companies and the commentary going into this quarter results, is fairly robust. So I clearly look at this as a buying opportunity. Valuations have corrected significantly from where they were. And, that's fair because, as interest rates go up, the discounting will have to come down. But I think if there is one sector where there is visibility of earnings growth, I think this is, IT is one of that.
Okay. Since we're talking about visibility of earnings growth, Hiren, hi, good morning. And I take your optimism entirely. I mean, I think you're the third or fourth person this morning who's told us that, this is not a sort of a lose-lose situation. In fact, investors should buy into the markets now. This is the best opportunity. So that point is taken. But where else do you see visibility of earnings? Because, names like ITC, for example, delivered good set of numbers. Management commentary is very positive. Do you like the consumption basket? And within that, any stocks that you prefer?
Yeah, so I think, our thinking is that, consumer discretionary should do reasonably well, especially the opening up trades. Yes, I think ITC has shown tremendous pricing power and good margin. We don't own that, but I think within the consumer space, we like companies which are at the premium end because we believe that inflation is likely to hurt incomes at the lower end. And there could be challenges with input price inflation. Opening up trades or liquor companies, restaurant chains, I think these are areas where we think that in 22-23 and going next year, given the low base of last year and the Omicron effect that was there in this quarter, I think that's where, in our view, money will be made over the next couple of years.
Hiren, any high conviction ideas that you want to point our viewers towards? I mean, if you can name names, that'll be absolutely fantastic. If you can't, you know, if you can get as close as possible, go on.
Prashant, it's difficult for me to talk individual names on the channel.
Right.
But I can tell you that I think that we need to be confident that the economy will recover. Yes, we have short-term headwinds in terms of energy prices and commodity prices. Hopefully that doesn't worsen from here, so that's something that we need to monitor. But otherwise, I think we continue to be very bullish on 4 or 5 areas. Consumer discretionary, as I mentioned, you could call it opening up trades or whatever, but I think, wherever consumption is at the upper end, I think, which includes automotive stocks, I think that, both four-wheelers and two-wheelers is an interesting area to look at. Given the kind of agricultural commodity prices that we are seeing, I think that, and if the monsoon is good, we should see very good cash flows back into the rural areas. And therefore, agri themes or two-wheelers or autos should be doing very well. Autos have actually gone through a very, very rough patch for the last couple of years. So the base is very benign. And from here on, we should be able to see significant growth there as well. We continue to like tech, as I mentioned earlier on your show, and lastly, financials, right? And then we are very much bottoms up. But I think that one theme, one or two themes which could be very interesting this year is automotive and companies which will benefit from higher agricultural product prices. So, you had the MD of PI Industries today early morning in your show. So companies like that could do phenomenally well, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, and they have done well, right? Done that for the last 2 decades. Now, Hiren, the other space where we've seen quite a bit of correction, and after massive rallies, all these platform companies, names like India Mart, IEX, some of the intermediaries. Any view here? Do you think the rally we had was perhaps a bit overdone, or is the fall right now getting overdone?
Yeah, so I think you need to differentiate amongst these platform companies that make money versus companies that don't make money or cash flows, because clearly, investors' mood has changed. They don't want to give a hyper valuation for hyper growth if that growth doesn't result in profitability and cash flow. So I think where companies are able to demonstrate profits and cash flow, and where the business model is already well tested, I think there could be pressure on valuations, but I think at some stage these companies will become very interesting plays for the next couple of years.
Okay. One final question, since we're talking about some of the new listings, some of the recent performers, what are your thoughts on LIC? I mean, it's been a muted one, but the growth prospects look good considering its distribution, its reach, its market share, etc. But do you think there's anything here for a long-term retail investor?
Well, I mean, again, I can't comment on a specific stock, but I think that insurance stocks were valued quite expensive given the kind of long runway that people were expecting. I think now insurance company valuations are reasonable, and the opportunity for long-term growth continues to be very much intact. And therefore, this is an area that investors should definitely look at. We've been very silly for long-term growth continues to be very much intact. And therefore, this is an area that investors should definitely look at. We've been very selective in insurance, and we have investment in HDFC Life, and we continue to like that. But I think overall, given the bad year that last year was because of COVID, I think the base is now benign, and higher rates actually help insurance companies because they have significant float. And also, I think earnings should bounce back this year compared to where you were last year. So I think from a medium to long-term perspective, I think insurance as a sector looks reasonably good.
Okay, insurance looks reasonably good. Hiren, pleasure speaking with you. Thanks a lot for joining in. Excuse me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great day. That's Alchemy telling us